Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rachael Hadaway and Ignacio Gonzalez Arboleya.
What Rachael showed you earlier with his agent is truly remarkable. His agent moved $12,000, flagged overpriced insurance, negotiated with 2 banks, all before he finished his coffee. 1 person, 1 morning, 1 agent working on his behalf. Now multiply that. Not by 10, not by 1,000, by 300 million. Because what Rachael has, every consumer is about to have. Not a decade from now, now. Agents that negotiate, that plan, that advocate. For people who are your customers. Rachael showed you the consumer shift. 86% trust their bank to deliver an agent, and 40% will switch if they don't get one. Now, here's the other side of that equation. AI agents are scaling fast. They're projected to grow into a $180 billion market by 2033. And by 2028, a meaningful share of everyday decisions will be made autonomously. And the leaders already know it, and they're building now. Because once this capability is in place, it just compounds. So the question isn't whether this happens, it's whether you're building alongside them or watching the gap open. Let's make it real. Nacho, can you show us what that looks like?
Well, I'm not sure about that, Rachael, but I'll give it a try. So let's meet Elaine. Elaine is not managing portfolios across 3 institutions or doing anything too complex. She's just renting an apartment with her partner and trying to save for her first house, and also thinking about buying a new car. She has a FICO score of 782 and an agent that is working just as hard as Rachael's is. The difference? Elaine is 1 of 300 million, and every one of them is about to have an agent sitting across the table from your institution. Overnight, her agent optimized her savings, flagged opportunities, and continued working toward her long-term goal of buying her first new house. Not reacting, but anticipating. Not just transactions, but intent. Her agent even gave her a heads up that she needed to change her car quickly as it was getting too old and could potentially explode while driving. At first, Elaine hesitated as she knew her mother-in-law would be borrowing it for a trip next weekend. But she finally decided to behave and to delegate the search of a loan to her agent. Before this, a customer on hold, a loan officer switching between systems, a rate sheet that was already out of date, 23 minutes for a single decision. Now, watch what happens when both sides bring their intelligence to the same table. Watch the clock. This happens fast, so don't blink. Okay, so 6.1 seconds. I guess you didn't get a single thing of what happened. But let me just rewind back very quickly and drive you step by step through the situation. So Elaine's agent initiates a structured request, 48-month auto loan, principal in the 720+ tier. 3 competing offers in hand, the lowest at 5.1% APR. The bank's agent doesn't counter. First, it verifies. It requests permission to pull Elaine's credit profile, the full picture, to personalize its response. Elaine's agent grants scope consent, credit profile access limited only to this transaction, and time bounded to 24 hours. FICO score, 782, verified. The bank next moves, 4.9% APR, 48 months, 0 down. $250 origination fee. 1 condition, enroll in direct deposit within 30 days. Elaine's agent wants the numbers. The rate advantage disappears after the origination fee. So it counters. Fee waiver requested. Now, what's the bank's reasoning? Customer lifetime value, $14,200. Fee waiver cost, $250. 1.8% of lifetime value. Competitive loss risk without concession, high. Retention ROI of the concession, 56.8x. Fee waiver approved. Final terms, 4.9% APR, $0 fee. $17,997 total. Terms accepted on behalf of Elaine. Just awaiting her confirmation. 6.1 seconds. Elaine saves $500 that her agent credits to her down payment account for her first new house. The bank preserves a $14,000 relationship, so both sides are winning. And she hasn't even finished her coffee, but I must admit it must be like a pretty big coffee. Now look again, that wasn't one negotiation. Every signal on the screen, another customer, another event, another institution. 12,000 in this segment alone, happening now at this speed. Nikhil showed you one agent only. This is 300 million all sitting across the table from you. So the question is, are you putting on the other table, of that table, what are you putting on the other side? Rachel, can you show us?
That 6-second negotiation, it wasn't magic. It was orchestration, data, analytics, decisions, governance, all working together in real time. That is FICO Platform. At the foundation, core services, the infrastructure that connects your data, your models, your decisions securely, globally, and at scale. On top of that, dynamic profiles, a real understanding of every customer, not static records, but living profiles, who they are, what they want, and what they'll need next. Then, trusted decision, every action grounded in proven data, validated, explainable, auditable. Not just what a model suggests, but what you can stand behind. And finally, agentic outcomes, where every decision turns into actions automatically within policies that you define, from detection to deployment in seconds.
So this is what it looks like when your platform moves at the same speed as your customer's agent. And when something needs your attention, it doesn't wait, it finds you. Rachel, let's see what it looks like from an institutional side. In this scenario, Rachel is going to be role-playing as Sarah Chen, VP of Customer Lending at a bank, to highlight where we are headed.
A competitive intelligence report is still sitting unread in my inbox. By the time I get to it, NeoRate has already launched a reward campaign and captured early momentum across my top 2 prime segments. A missed signal, a few weeks of lost ground. Hi, I'm Sarah, VP of Secured Consumer Lending. I oversee 400,000 accounts across 6 segments. And until recently, this is exactly where things would break down. Because the world now moves faster than any human agent can track alone. This is what my Monday looks like now. 3 agents, 1 conversation. Let's watch.
Sarah's Performance Monitor agent here. Sarah, I'm flagging a critical signal in your Momentum credit card portfolio. Performing accounts in the FICO 660 to 720 segment are showing a seasonally adjusted decline in average revolving balance of $187 against the adjusted baseline. And this has emerged within just the past 30 days. This situation warrants prompt action. A proposal is being escalated for your immediate review.
But before I even ask, what do we do about it? The platform is already thinking.
Change proposal agent here. Sarah, the drop in average revolving balance correlates with competitive rewards activity, but I don't have enough data to recommend a specific response with confidence. So I've designed a controlled experiment. The experiment will tell us the optimal incentive level needed to reverse the balance trend.
All I need to do is review that experiment, adjust 1 parameter, and approve.
I'm Sarah's lifecycle agent. The average revolving balance recovery experiment has passed all 5 policy gates.
Great.
8,740 performing accounts across 3 cohorts. Unless you advise otherwise, deployment is ready on your authorization.
There's only one thing left. Approved.
Detection, diagnosis, experiment design and deployment. 3 agents, 1 morning. All of us working on Sarah's behalf. Total involvement necessary? 1 review, 1 adjustment, 1 tap. That is guided operations. Now, Rachael and Ignacio can tell you a little bit more of what was happening behind the scenes inside each of our conversations.
You just saw the platform watch, think, and act. 3 agents, each with a distinct role, each handing off in a governed way. Now let's look inside of each one. What did they see? What did they recommend? And how did I stay in control?
So the performance monitor agent told Sarah that the average balance within a key segment of the momentum portfolio was declining. So let's go and take a look at what it is that was going on. Sarah, I don't know if you realize that I just stole your laptop here. Would you mind telling me your password real quick?
Okay. Cybersecurity is in the room,
okay.
Nacho.
Let me just make sure that I have everything up and running. I don't know what type of websites you were visiting, Sarah, so let me just close them very quickly. Okay, so here it is. This is what Sarah was looking at, and this is actually where FICO Platform is going. 400,000 accounts across 6 different active segments with a total balance of $4.2 billion. And if you focus on this line chart in the middle of the screen, you'll be able to see the portfolio balance trend over the past 30 days for each of those 6 active segments. So if it had been only Sarah looking at this, she could have perfectly well said, oh, this looks pretty stable, this is nice, I'm going to do something else, grab another coffee, and so on. But fortunately, it was not only her looking at this. The performance monitor agent on FICO Platform was also keeping an eye on this. And it's been able to tell there is something that is not working well. If you focus on this red line in here, which is the one pertaining to the FICO score 660 to 720, you can see that it's very progressively and very slightly dropping. And that is actually having a pretty big impact in the organization. If we go to the right-hand side of the screen right here, we can see actually the alert that has been raised by this performance monitor agent. And we can see that the impact that it's having is calculated to be around $2.14 million on annual interest income for the bank. Just by clicking on this button, we can access the details of this notification. We can see that it's affecting 72,000 accounts, as well as the possible contributory factors to the situation. The first of them, the consumer agent shopping activity, is up 300%. And the second of them, the competitive pressure, the competitive landscape. So once this notification has been raised by their first agent, this is going to be then picked up by the next agent in line on FICO Platform, which is the change proposal agent. The change proposal agent is going to be the one in charge of coming up with a solution for the situation, coming up with a remediation to revert this decline that we're seeing. And the first thing that we see is that the agent has been totally transparent and totally honest. If you focus on this little purple box, it's saying that the platform doesn't have enough data to actually recommend a strategy, recommend a treatment to revert the situation. So what it's suggesting is to run an experiment, to run a controlled experiment to come up with an optimal strategy that we can take into production. This experiment is going to be run for 30 days, with total number of accounts 8,740, and it's going to be structured in 3 different tiers, in 3 different cohorts or strategies. We're going to have a control group of 1,000 accounts, which are not going to be altered, and then 3 different strategies: a moderate reward campaign, an enhanced reward campaign, and a premium reward campaign. But before approving and deploying, I don't know if you recall that Sarah here wanted to modify and adjust a parameter. So we're going to do exactly that. I just need to click this on this premium reward and modify it to my own liking. I believe that what Sarah did is that she read reward offer, 2.45x points on all purchases, plus a $50 statement credit. but she didn't like it. She thought it was too expensive for the bank, so she changed this 50 with $40. That's a bit stingy of you, by the way. The customers will not like it, but anyways, here it is. The modification has been done, and now Sarah can just go ahead and approve and deploy. In the moment that she approves and deploys, this is going to be taken up by the next agent, the lifecycle agent, who's going to be validating all of the policy gates to make sure that everything is ready to be deployed and to be put in production so that we can execute these marketing campaigns. Once it has been all taken into production, it's also offering us the option to schedule an intervention review. This intervention review is going to happen in the next 14 days. So detection, diagnosis, experiment design, cost yield analysis, deployment, all before Sarah's first meeting of the day. Total human involvement, 1 review, 1 adjustment, and 1 tap. Full audit trail, full compliance, full rollback. Every step grounded in empirical data. The platform watches, thinks, and acts within boundaries that Sarah sets and controls. That is supervised autonomy in production.
The institutions that deploy this operate on fundamental different cycle time. The gap between knowing and acting compresses from weeks to minutes. Every institution still running on weekly reviews and quarterly planning is playing a different game. Now, this is what we've been building towards since the start of the session. This is the ecosystem. Consumer agents, institutional agents, connected through a shared decisioning layer, each acting in real time, each optimizing for outcomes. This is how financial services will operate. This changes how you will run your business. You don't find problems in meetings. You detect them as they happen. You don't spend weeks analyzing. You act immediately. You don't deploy in cycles. You deploy in seconds.
And that advantage compounds millions of decisions, but billions in value, all flowing through a single layer, and that layer is, of course, FICO. Every agent, consumer or institutional, still needs to make a financial decision. Risk, compliance, outcome. That's what FICO delivers.
You've seen what happens when both sides bring intelligence to the table. Decisions compress, outcomes improve, speed becomes the advantage. FICO is the layer that makes that possible. And the institutions that move first, they win. And now I'd like to turn the stage over to Mike Triquet. Thank you.